This podcast is brought to you by the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. And great to have back with us our friend Gene Marks. Hi, Gene. How are you?
Hey, Dan. Great to speak with you.
Thank you. Some interesting stories in the world of small business right now. Interestingly enough, you start out by talking about the Colonial Pipeline recently. Tell us what you found.
Well, it's funny. When the Colonial Pipeline thing happened this week, it was yet another story of a ransomware attack. And I just have to highlight the issue, particularly for small businesses, Dan, because this is nothing new in the world of technology. I mean, I'm a CPA, but I also, I run a financial and a technology consulting firm. So we see this a lot. And ransomware is a big issue. And, we'll never probably find out publicly the actual reasons, why or how, this malware got into Colonial, the administrator of Colonial Pipeline system. But I've got a pretty good guess, Dan. It usually comes down to people. Number one is,
Sure.
The biggest reason for ransomware attacks is when people incorrectly, click on links in a bad email where they get redirected to a bad website. It's called phishing with a PH, and then something gets downloaded and attacks. And then the second reason why these ransomware attacks happen is a lot of us are running old operating systems, particularly all these people working from home. And if I were a betting man, I would bet that if, Colonial Pipeline is like my other small business clients, either somebody clicked on a bad link or they were running a version of Windows 98 in their home computer that they're sharing with their kids, and the malware people compromised it and got into the network. So I guess the takeaways is you got to get training, you've got to be able to identify weird emails, and also you've got to make sure you are running the most recent version of your operating system, whether it's Windows, Mac, or Android.
We were just talking with Sandy Brewer a moment ago, and I asked him if he was seeing labor issues there in the Detroit area. You talk a little bit about this in terms of small business and a tax credit that some small business owners may need to really have a better understanding of.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up because listen, people can get angry and they can get political and whatever, point fingers, say it's the unemployment insurance or this or that. It is what it is, guys. Okay, we are going to have labor issues at least through September, and probably beyond that. So my hardest clients are figuring out what to do about that. And in the end, it does come down to paying more. The good news is that there is a tax credit available that will help you pay hiring bonuses for employees. It's called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. And thanks to the stimulus bill, the same bill that extended unemployment benefits, that's been extended through 2025. The credit can be up to $9,600 per employee per year. And it's eligible employees are ones that got off of welfare, got out of prison, or most importantly, Dan, have been unemployed for more than 6 months. So if you are bringing somebody off of unemployment, they've been unemployed for 6 months. I've got a lot of clients that have got their accountants on the hotline, and they're saying, hey, listen, I'm going to hire this person. What will our tax credit be? Okay, it's going to be $2,000. Thank you. And then they're turning around to that prospective employee and saying, how about if we give you a $1,500 hiring bonus to come and join us? You're still ahead of the game. And that could make the difference for you to bring on an employee onto your company, particularly in these times of really, really tight employment. So use this work opportunity tax credit to help you with hiring bonuses. It could really make a difference.
So supply chain has obviously been an area that has been focused on in the last few months, and the concerns around supply chain. And you've noted some things that some small businesses are doing to try and get around that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same. It's the same concept as the hiring issue. This supply chain problem that we're hearing right now, it's a legit problem that's affecting many of my clients. But Dan, ultimately, this is going to go away too. At some point, the supply chain issue will get resolved. But you've got to, we're going to have to weather through it probably for another 6 months or so. So what do? Here's what my best clients are doing, all right? I mean, they realize that when they're having a supply chain issue, by very definition, a supply chain issue means that you have an issue with inventory. You don't know what your supply chain problems are until you really know what your inventory is. And Dan, all I can do is just share with you what companies are doing. My smartest clients are counting their inventory closely right now. They're doing cycle counts on their inventory, which means they're doing the same counts on portions of their inventory every week. They're investing in warehouse management, inventory management products that track with your radio frequency ID, GPS. They're even investing in other warehouse management technology to help them keep the flow going and keep their costs down as well. They're just focusing on inventory and making sure they know every single product and where it is and what its availability is. The second biggest thing everybody is doing, Dan, is they're talking to their customers. They're making their lists of their top 25 or 50 customers and reaching out to them and adjusting their expectations for lead times. And then, of course, they're talking to their suppliers and looking for alternative suppliers. And I've got a few clients that are finding alternatives through their supplier networks, through Thomson is another good source, as well as going overseas. India, despite all the problems they're having right now, is turning into a greater and greater source of supply for a lot of businesses, more so than China. So these are all things that people are doing to try and mitigate the supply chain issue. But like I said at the beginning, Dan, the supply chain issue will ultimately resolve itself. It's just going to take a few months.
And so that means that a lot more small businesses are making heavier investment in digital, correct?
They are. And, it is. I'll give you an example, Dan. Like just a couple weeks ago, Boston Dynamics, I forget if we talked about this last month, but Boston Dynamics introduced a robot for their warehouse. They call it Stretch. And you can program it to lift pallets, move items around, count inventory, and prepare stuff for shipping. It literally does the work of a warehouse worker. And yes, it does take some programming, but it's extremely effective. It's about $75,000 for a product like this. There are more and more technologies, robotic arms, robots in the warehouse that move items around, without a driver, without a forklift operator, that a lot of my clients are not only looking at but investing in, because it cuts down on people, frankly. It reduces labor costs and it increases efficiencies. So this year, with labor costs going up and the supply chain issues that we have, this is the year to invest in technology. I know this sounds harsh, but a lot of businesses are using this technology to keep their payrolls as low as possible.
Are in general small business owners more confident about the back half of the year and going into 22?
So, the National Federation of Independent Businesses comes out every month with their confidence and optimism index, and this index just came out this past week. And the answer to your question is small business confidence is up from a low that it suffered in January. The levels are still not at the same levels that we were back, frankly, during the Trump administration, but they're gaining back again. And really, they're at the levels that we saw back in 2016 and 2015 even. So it is despite all the issues that we're having out there right now, Dan, with labor disruption and supply chain issues and all of that, most of the clients I talk to, they're playing the long game. We're out of COVID. I mean, we're really emerging from it. Consumers are spending. Consumer confidence is high. And even with inflation going up, which is always a concern, there's a lot of good things about rising inflation.
Gene, thanks very much. Greatly appreciate it. Gene Marks of the Marks Group. To keep engaged with Wharton Business Daily and other Wharton School shows, visit businessradio.wharton.upenn.edu.